Welcome to Liz's 10-minute book review. Wah, 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 wah. This week we're recording Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. Napolitano, is that how you say that?
I guess so, yeah.
Alright, Anne. And your Italian last name. Okay. Dear Edward, I'll put it right there. So, Dear Edward is a story of a survivor of a plane crash. And Edward, previously known as Eddie, is the only survivor. His entire family dies on this crash. It's pretty heavy. Before the crash, he goes by Eddie because it kind of like encompasses his personality, and I feel like him changing it to Edward really represented the fact that he himself had changed. And this moment in his life was monumental, and he was a different person. So the name change for him was very significant, and it is a very significant theme in the book. The book jumps between present day and a specific time on the plane. Present day is always after the crash. It's about his rehabilitation and life after this traumatic event. And then on the plane, during those times, we're actually watching things happen on the plane from different passengers' perspectives. So there's one woman named Florida. She's crazy. She believes in reincarnation, but to the point where she's like, yeah, I remember my old lives. So they talk about like radiation, and right. Florida is like, oh yeah, my friend Marie, talking about the bitch who fucking figured out what radium was. Yeah, it was hilarious. It's like, bitch, you don't know her. And she sat next to this woman named Linda. Linda is like a young woman. She's nervous. She's flying to California. Oh, by the way, they're going from the East Coast to the West Coast. She's going to go see her boyfriend because she's pregnant, and she thinks that he's going to remarry her. And Linda is like uptight, young, and Florida is like old and a hippie and crazy. Then there's Benjamin, who is not out of the closet, but he's a gay soldier. And he's flying back to finally go see his grandmother. And he was shot, he was injured, so that's why he's no longer in the military. But he doesn't have any idea what he's going to do with the rest of his life. And what's really sad about that is like he never got to experience the life of being gay and coming out. And he also never got to experience what life was like after the military. Because of the crash. You got Cox, alright? Cox is an old man who's about to die. He's a real piece of shit. He's like an old white dude who like made a lot of money and did that by like fucking a lot of people over, and he's famous for it, and the dude is like a billionaire.
And he's on this same ass commercial flight?
Same ass commercial flight. He's in first class. Then there's Mark, also in first class. Mark looks at Cox aspirationally. He's like, it's my future. We're fucking brothers. Then you've got Vanessa, which is the flight attendant, and she is fucking gorgeous. The whole plane cannot stand to, like, the whole plane stops and stares at this broad because she is curvy and sexy and everybody wants her. And she recently has been celibate, but decides to fuck Mark in the bathroom. Don't know why.
There's no explanation.
Yeah,
they're just like, here it is.
Yep. Eddie's mom is in first class, even though her sons and husband are in business class, because she's a writer working on a script, and she's just like, I didn't get it done before the plane. I need space. So she's in first class. You got Eddie's dad, who homeschools his sons, and is a total math nerd. And then Jordan, which is Eddie's older brother, and they, at 15, like most kids, they have like the rebellion phase, some friction with their parents, and like you really see that between Jordan and the dad. Plane crash happens, he's in rehab, he moves in with his aunt and uncle. It's his mom's sister, and husband. They wanted kids for a really long time, but really struggled to have them, and Edward moving in with them was really like the mark of the end of them trying, because they had to focus on this child and this child's recovery. He notices that a family lives next door, a mother and daughter, and that's it. Bessa is the mom, and Shay is the same age as Eddie. And Eddie really takes to Shay. He is struggling to sleep at night. He has a lot of like unresolved emotions about things. So one night he just walks over to Shay's house, knocks on the door. Bessa lets him in. He goes up to her room. They talk for a minute, and he passes out in the chair. When he lived with his family, he was in a bunk bed with his brother. He'd never slept alone in his life before. So sleeping alone all the time was fucking with him. So he started sleeping at Shay's house to the point where her mother was like, all right, like, let's get him a sleeping bag and a pillow. So he slept on the floor next to Shay every night for years.
Oh, this spans years?
Years.
No shit.
So from the plane crash, which he is like 12,
Right.
to him graduating high school.
Oh, okay.
When Shay gets her period, he's no longer allowed to sleep on her floor because that's when she became a woman.
Yeah.
Shay and him like become friends. She compares him to Harry Potter, the boy who lived, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Lives with aunt and uncle. You see the parallels. Then some time goes on, and Edward finds a bag of letters in the garage, and he convinces Shay to go through them with him at night. And they find out that Edward's uncle has been hiding these letters from him because he wasn't sure how he would react. But they're letters from all over the country. People who were related to the victims of the plane crash. People who were interested in him for whatever reason.
Yeah.
People who were like, you need to do this with your life now. Eventually he finds a letter, and it's actually from his older brother Jordan's girlfriend. And Eddie, in this moment, really has a lot of hard feelings because he didn't know that his brother had a girlfriend. Granted, it was a very short thing, but he decides, I'm going to go to the city. I'm going to go meet this girl. And Shay goes with him. And it's weird. It's a little weird. Shay and Eddie end up becoming camp counselors. And, one of the letters, Jax, which is Mark, the douchebag from the plane, his brother, gave Eddie $6 million. Yeah, he was
That's
like,
nice.
I don't believe in having this kind of money. He's like, I think that you can do some good with it, kid. Gives it to him. Eddie figures out how to pay for everything without everyone knowing it's from him. So he pays for his brother's girlfriend's college. He pays for Shay's college. All through, like, fake programs.
Right, yeah. Shell corporations or something.
Which I think is, like, really lovely. And then, right after they graduate high school together, Shay and Eddie go on a trip to the crash site.
Cool trip.
And there's actually, like, an artist got famous from doing a piece of art dedicated at the crash site, which is 150-some birds in the shape of a plane. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I personally thought that was fucking dumb. And then they're there, and then Shay and Eddie finally kiss. I mean, fucking virgin nerds. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it took this book is not short. And it took so long for shit to get interesting. So fucking long. And then it was just like not even climactic. Like Eddie couldn't even get fucking laid. He finally he gets his first kiss at 18? Come on.
He was in a plane crash.
Yeah, but he literally sleeps on this broad's floor for years. Like, she couldn't have made the move? I don't know. It just seems a little... It took way too long to get interesting, and then by the time it got interesting, it was very anticlimactic. I didn't like it. I didn't like the book, to be honest. And I'm very sad that I wasted my time reading it. Don't read it. Don't read it. I'm going to give it 1.5 stars.
That's a don't read?
That's a don't read. 1 star? It's 1 star.
It has a beginning, middle, and end.
It has a beginning and middle end. You can read it. Takes forever to get into it. There are some interesting parts. I mean, I did finish it.
Comes up.
It wasn't a do not finish.
So that's a 1? Is a do not finish?
Do not finish is 0.
Oh, okay.
You don't even get a star. Do not finish is 0. I finished it. It got a 1. It did what a book does, which is starts and ends. There was a story, kinda. I was interested a little bit. That's my final offer. Going once, going twice. So, thank you so much for coming. The Liz's 10-minute book review. Wah, wah, wah.